Good afternoon and welcome to the Cathedral Church of All Saints here in Halifax, Nova Scotia. Every Wednesday we check in with some announcements, updates, and a poem, a song, and a prayer. We're now into the second week of November. Our clocks have taken us back an hour, and now we have the joy of waking up in the dark and going home from work in the dark. That, along with the dramatic drop in temperatures over the past 20 hours, I think, personally, makes a good case for hibernation. I want to begin with a couple of announcements regarding Cathedral's special projects at this time of year. First, to the Mission to Seafarers here in Halifax, located down on the waterfront on Marginal Road. The annual Christmas Shoebox campaign is now underway, which provides gifts for seafarers visiting the Port of Halifax over the holidays who may be weeks at sea and many who will not be home with family for Christmas. The Cathedral Church is happy to collect items for the shoeboxes, or you can fill your own boxes to drop off and we'll see that they get delivered. We'd like to have everything in by Tuesday, November the 29th. You can bring them to the church or at the office during the week. The one important note is that while you can decorate the shoebox itself, please don't wrap any of the gifts or wrap the shoebox closed. Items being sought are hats, scarves, gloves or mitts, socks, individually wrapped candy, but please no chocolate as it could melt, soaps, toothpaste and toothbrushes, shaving foam and razors, deodorant, chapsticks, playing cards, and any memento of Nova Scotia or Canada. The Mission to Seafarers website Halifax has more information about this project, or check in there to find out about the work of the mission itself. The Outreach Committee is collecting new winter boots to help keep the feet of children warm this winter. We're looking for sizes from toddlers to young adults. You can drop off new winter boots here at the Cathedral or again at the Cathedral office, and these will be distributed through Parker Street Food and Furniture Bank. The St. Catharines ACW group is organizing the collection of new toys and knitted items for children, as well as toiletries for teens. All unwrapped items may be left in the box at the donation table near the front doors of the Cathedral through December 11th. Thank you again for your support of this annual project. The Canadian Church Calendar for 2023 is now available. These can be purchased for $10 each. You can pick them up after Sunday services, and this annual project again is in partnership with and to support the work of the Anglican Church Women. On the past Sunday, we marked Remembrance Sunday, and we were pleased to welcome Mr. Russell Gross, the Executive Director of the Black Cultural Center, who was present for both our 9:30 and 11 a.m. service, and shared the history of the No. 2 Construction Battalion, the only Black division in the Canadian Forces in World War I. If you were unable to join us, you can watch his presentation on our recorded service from last Sunday on YouTube or Facebook. And a special thank you to Howard Darcy for his annual Remembrance Day display, which is visible behind me. This will remain in place through this Friday, November the 11th. As we continue our journey through Remembrance Week, a reminder that Friday, November 11th, we will still hold our weekly Friday noon hour service of Holy Communion from the Book of Common Prayer. You'll also find on our Facebook page a notice of the location of Remembrance Day gatherings around our city. For those across the harbor in Dartmouth, I would add to that list the annual ceremony that is held at Sullivan's Pond in downtown Dartmouth at 11 a.m. And that's a good reminder that if you haven't checked out our new website, Facebook, or Instagram as yet, these are great portals to keep up to date on events and happenings here at our cathedral and in the community around us. Our newly refurbished website features a calendar under the Events tab that quickly enables you to see events, activities, worship services, daily, weekly, and monthly. Clicking on any event or date will provide you with more details. Once again, a reminder to groups and organizations, please send along your activities well in advance so that we can post them to the calendar for all to see. Keeping people informed and engaged is the goal. Along with our Friday in-person service that I mentioned, we also hold Sunday services 9:30 and 11, and at 4 p.m. music offerings as either concert events or evensong. We also offer an in-person Eucharist Wednesdays at 7:30 a.m. and a meditation group that meets Wednesdays at noon in the Great Hall. Monday through Saturday, tune in for a prayerful start to your day with prayers and readings beginning at 6:30 a.m., available for viewing anytime throughout the day. These are offered by a group of Cathedral volunteers. On Mondays at 6:30 p.m., a series titled Pray As You Can, Not As You Can't. This group meets via Zoom. Saint Seraphim of Seraph, an 18th century monk and mystic, will be our guide as we explore some of the many ways to pray, each one as unique as each one of us. The series' theme is When You Pray, Be Like, and then uses metaphors of mountains, flowers, ocean, breath, birds, as St. Seraphim offers glimpses of the characteristics we can cultivate in our conversations with the divine. And on Thursday evenings at 6:30, we also host an online meditation group gathering via Zoom. If you've been interested in Christian meditation, this is a great way to check it out. For information or to receive the Zoom link for the meditation group or the Monday Pray As You Can series, send an email with Pray As You Can in the subject line or meditation, depending on your interest, to prayasucan3, that's the number 3, at gmail.com. November 15th, Julian Doucette Campbell, our Cathedral's engagement leader, as part of the Atlantic School of Theology's Continue Education program, will present an online stewardship workshop titled Why Your Church's Story Matters and How to Tell It. The workshop is geared towards clergy and lay leaders who wish to help their churches articulate their mission, vision, and values, and how to share them with others. To register for this Zoom event, check in at the Atlantic School of Theology's website. Now, today's poem, song, and prayer are prompted by a national news story with a local connection. Yesterday, Tuesday, November the 8th, back in 1946, a black Nova Scotia businesswoman by the name of Viola Desmond, on her way to Sydney, Cape Breton, had the misfortune of having her car break down in New Glasgow. And you probably know the rest of the story, how that simple, seemingly innocent act changed all of our histories. To pass the time while waiting for her car to be repaired, she stopped into Roseland Theatre. I pick up the story from the Wikipedia page. She went to see a film called The Dark Mirror, starring Olivia de Havilland. There were no segregation laws for movie theaters in Nova Scotia, and the theater had no sign telling its patrons about the policy, but the main floor seats were reserved for white patrons, a discriminatory practice permitted in all Canadian provinces. Desmond was sold a ticket to the balcony. Unaware of the segregation and being nearsighted, she went to sit on the floor section close to the screen. She was asked to move, and she realized then what was happening, but she refused to move because she had a better view from the main floor. When she requested to exchange the balcony ticket for a ticket to the main floor, recognizing there would be an additional cost, she was refused and forcibly removed from the theater. She was arrested and spent 12 hours in jail, then had to pay a $26 fine for tax evasion. The tax per seat on the balcony price of a 30-cent ticket was 2 cents, while the tax on the floor price of a 40-cent seat was 3 cents. So she was convicted of depriving the government of 1 cent in tax. Desmond was kept in jail overnight and was never informed about her right to legal advice, a lawyer, or bail. Upon returning to Halifax, Desmond discussed the matter with her husband, and his advice was simply to let it go. However, she then sought advice from the leaders of her church, the then Cornwallis Street Baptist Church, where the minister William Perley Oliver and his wife Perline encouraged her to take action. And with their support, Desmond decided to fight the charge in court. With the backing of her church and the Nova Scotia Association for the Advancement of Colored People, Desmond hired lawyer Frederick William Bassett, who would later become Chief Justice of Nova Scotia, who represented her in the criminal trials and attempted unsuccessfully to file a lawsuit against Roseland Theatre. During the subsequent trials, the government insisted on arguing that this was a case of tax evasion. A provincial act regulating cinemas and movie theaters required the payment of an amusement tax based on the price of the theater's tickets. Since the theater would only agree to sell Desmond a cheaper balcony ticket, but she had insisted upon sitting in a much more expensive main floor seat, she was short 1 cent on the tax. Desmond's lawyer tried to appeal the decision on the basis of her being wrongfully accused of tax evasion rather than on the basis of racial discrimination. When dismissing the case at the higher level of court review, Justice William Lorimer Hall said, quote, "Had the matter reached the courts by some other method than certiorari, that is, an attempt to overturn a lower court's decision, there might have been an opportunity to right the wrong done to this unfortunate woman. One wonders if the manager of the theater who laid the complaint was so zealous because of a bona fide belief that there had been an attempt to defraud the province of Nova Scotia of the grand sum of 1 cent, or was it surreptitious endeavor to enforce a Jim Crow law by misuse of a public statute," unquote. After the trial and encounters with the legal system of Nova Scotia, Viola Desmond closed her business and moved to Montreal, where she could enroll in a business college. She eventually resettled in New York City, where she died February the 7th, 1965, at the age of 50. She's buried at Camp Hill Cemetery here in Halifax. Now, the reason I bring this historic event to your attention today is to share with you the news that yesterday, 76 years after the fact, Cameron Bailey, the CEO of the Toronto International Film Festival, marked Viola Desmond Day, and in doing so, announced that Cinema One, the premier theater in Toronto's Bell Lighthouse Theatre Complex on King Street in Toronto, will be renamed the Viola Desmond Theatre. Cameron Bailey also paid tribute to Viola's sister, Wanda Robson, for keeping her story and legacy alive when it might otherwise have been lost to the annals of history. Wanda died this February at the age of 95. You may also be aware that it was the then Lieutenant Governor, the Honorable Mayan Francis, on April 14, 2010, who granted Viola Desmond a posthumous free pardon, the first to be granted in Canada. The news article published today by CBC notes, along with the renaming of the cinema, the Toronto International Film Festival has also announced a $2 million fundraising campaign that will support Black women storytellers, enhance programming for Black audiences, eliminate access barriers, and amplify Desmond and Robson's stories. Cameron Bailey notes, quote, "When there are acts of resistance, when there is injustice to be fought against, it's the people who keep telling the story and make it visible. That's a very important part of the struggle as well. So it was important to recognize both of the sisters," Bailey said. He added that 2 front-row seats, side by side in the cinema, with gold fabric, will be dedicated to Desmond and Robson as a reminder of their courage and advocacy. "We all deserve to have our stories told," he said, "and to have audiences have access to those stories equally. And that hasn't happened in the past. Space does need to be opened up. Space needs to be made. And in the case of Viola, she was speaking for herself and for her community, the Black community of Nova Scotia. But I think that's a lesson for all of us to learn, to remember that where we see gaps, where we see inequality in terms of people having access and having an equal seat at the table, there's still work to be done." End quote. So a song choice for today is one by an artist who goes by his first name, Usher, and his song, "I Cry." Born October 14th, 1978, Usher Raymond IV is an American R&B singer. He was born in Dallas, Texas. His father left the family when Usher was just a year old, and Usher grew up with his mother, then stepfather and half-brother in Chattanooga, Tennessee. Directed by his mother, Usher joined the local church youth choir in Chattanooga when he was 9 years old. There, his grandmother discovered his ability to sing, although it was not until Usher joined a singing group that she considered he could sing professionally. Believing that a bigger city would provide greater opportunities to showcase his talent, Usher's family moved to Atlanta, Georgia, where there was a more conducive environment for beginning singers. At the age of 12, his mother put him in local singing competitions, and he was eventually signed by LaFace Records. He released his first album in 1990, and in 1997 topped the Billboard charts with his song "Nice and Slow." Usher has sold over 23.8 million albums and 38.2 million digital songs in the United States. Internationally, he has sold 80 million records worldwide, making him one of the best-selling music artists of all time. So his song, "I Cry" by Usher. As a poem, I turn to one recently written by a young Nova Scotia woman by the name of Damini Auiga, whom we have had the honor to have recite her poetry here in our cathedral on occasions. In this poem, which she titles "Future," she reflects on this theme of our actions in the moment, paving the way for a yet unrealized future. Like Viola Desmond, who simply stood her ground, but whose legacy and influence lives on decades later. In writing this poem, Damini names not only pioneers in history, such as Wangari Maathai, a Kenyan social, environmental, and political activist, and the first African woman to win the Nobel Prize, but also Lewis Howard Latimer, an African-American inventor. His inventions included an evaporative air conditioner and an improved process for manufacturing carbon filaments for light bulbs. In 1884, he joined the Edison Electric Light Company, where he worked as a patent draftsman and wrote the first book on electrical lighting. But she also makes reference to fictional comic book characters, who have also helped to break down barriers and open a sense of possibility for what might be for readers and followers. She notes, Ororo Munroe, the first major female character of African descent in comics, regarded by some as being Marvel Comics' most important female superhero after Wonder Woman, and one of the most prominent characters in the X-Men series. Ororo has the ability to control the weather and the atmosphere. And she notes Lucas Cage, one of the earliest Black superheroes to be featured as a protagonist and a title character of a Marvel comic book. And so her poem, "Future." You are Black excellence. You are strength and soul. You are the truth that ancestors spoke of, the future of Black rising, Black surviving, striving and succeeding. You are the formula that will set the forthcoming free. You will be supernovas, guiding others across the night skies, showing them they have the opportunity to rise. Each effort you make will be a triumph. You will flourish and prosper. You will grow trees in places with droughts, like Wangari Maathai, a revolutionist and environmental activist She fought for what she believed in. No, she never hid. She faced adversity and overcame. And you will persevere in hardship without a doubt. Trials and tribulations will come, but you will walk through minefields. You will shed light on the world like Lewis Howard Latimer. He overpowered the obstacles that came his way. You will weather storms like Aurora Monroe. Creating lightning, you will short-circuit those that challenge your faith. You will dodge the bullets the world throws at you like Lucas Cage. Do not let barriers control you. Do not allow yourself to be caged. You will go far, miles upon miles. Leaders will be made out of you. You will gain power like Black Panther, dominating screens, helping black children dream living life to visions. You are the futuristic innovators and creators the world's been waiting for. And one day you will hold wisdom, shining, wearing the stretches of time. But for now, continue on, for the past is long gone. We only know each day once, until another one comes. Each is fast approaching, so take each step now and enter the future. And in closing, here is a prayer to kind of collectively bring our thoughts together in this Remembrance Week and in remembrance of those who have paved a new future for us. May we too rise to that challenge. This prayer based on the prayer of St. Francis. Let us pray. Lord, make us instruments of your peace. Where there is hatred, let us sow love. Where there is injury, pardon. Where there is discord, union. Where there is doubt, faith. Where there is despair, hope. Where there is darkness, light. And where there is sadness, joy. Grant that we may not so much seek to be consoled as to console, to be understood as to understand, to be loved as to love. For it is in giving that we receive, it is in pardoning that we are pardoned, and it is in dying that we are born to eternal life. Amen. Thank you for checking in. Do stay safe, take care, and until we meet again, God bless you.